Hello and welcome back to the Obojima Podcast. My name is Jeremiah and I am with Adam and Ari, and we are the writers of Obojima. You are joining us for our weekly writers meeting where we sit down, we chat Obojima, D&D, Studio Ghibli, movies, other things like that. And today we are taking on another community-oriented podcast topic.
Yeah.
In the Discord, people are asking questions and they want to know about the Rangers of the Greenward Path. What? What is that?
What are they
I don't even remember.
How dare they?
The Rangers of the Greenward Path, I believe, are an organization that we very coyly mention on occasion throughout Obojima, but don't go into super strong detail. In fact, I think we only mentioned them 4 times in the book. And so people want to know, what are they? What is that? What do they do? Do they still exist? How do they connect to the corruption? Things like that. I think those are all things for us to talk about and maybe expand on.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say the fact that people are asking, what is that? It's the right question.
Yeah.
And I think that's wonderful. And, a lot of the things we put in the book are meant to basically have that question be asked. And so that these things can be malleable to what your needs, the needs of your game are. So let's say, there are a handful of things that are said about these Rangers. So, it kind of reinforces the fact that they exist. But it allows you to kind of make them into what you need at the time. But that said, there's a lot to talk about because there are a few things in here that are said about them that I think are really fascinating. And so, yeah, I'm excited to dig into this. So we could start by going through what's said.
Yeah.
Okay.
As Ari's jumping into that, I think, we talk about this often, but we are often left with the issue that we have to deal with while writing Obojima, which is sometimes we are trying to write for an IP where we really want to delve in and explore and explain everything. And other times we're writing for D&D where we want to keep things vague so they can be malleable for your D&D game. We're giving you the tool so you as a DM can do with it what you will. But that doesn't work when you're interested in the IP because then it's just unanswered questions that you want to hear about. So we're gonna expand a little bit here. I don't know how much we'll expand. We might not explain everything, but
we might just go down all kinds of little rabbit holes. Like it could be this, it could be this, it could be this, and and then that can inspire people who are listening that I got an idea now I want to make them this. So a lot of our stuff is just suggestions and inspiration, but everybody's going to have their own canon, their own Obojima canon.
Also, whatever is canon, as I will say this as many times as possible, is yours to change and manipulate as you will at your table for what makes for a fun game.
Yep.
Yeah. So
agreed.
So the first mention of the Rangers of the Greenward Path, it happens in the entry on the Gray Steps location, and there's a character there named Stout Crumb, who's a male elf. And short, stocky, and silent, Stout Crumb is a fixture in Mergen's Tavern. It's rumored that she was one of the Rangers of the Greenward Path who were among the first to encounter the corruption. Ooh. So this is an interesting thing that ties into the Ranger subclass in the book, that we have a Ranger who has been corrupted by the corruption. So what we can surmise is that there were these Rangers of the Greenward Path that were the kind of first responders that came to investigate. And so the corruption affected them first. And it's this is one of the things of just like it says here, before she was marked by the corruption, Crumb was known as an accomplished warrior. So we have a corrupted ranger, who hangs out in this tavern, but before they were corrupted, or even after they were corrupted, they're still a member of the Rangers of the Greenward Path. So, these kind of roving first responders who deal with this kind of stuff, I think is really fun. It's really interesting. And then it's a question of, how big are they? Are the Rangers of the Greenward Path like a group of like 6 friends, or is it like a league of dozens,
Right. So immediately, and I'll let Ari continue to expand here, But my first initial thought is that the Rangers of the Greenward Path perhaps exist within the Brackwater wetlands. Like that is their space. And the Greenward Path could be the path that leads out of the wetlands and into the Gale Fields.
Oh, that's interesting. So
the Rangers could be groups of people that lead people to the Greenward Path.
Escort.
Like essentially like getting them back on on path when they're lost in the Brackwater wetlands.
So it's almost like we're saying that the Greenward Path is actually kind of a new name.
Yeah.
Like kind of came around after the corruption happened. Could also be that the Greenward Path used to go through this beautiful Brackwater wetlands before the corruption hit it. And then it got destroyed.
That's what I'm imagining.
And it's like, and maybe there is a section of the destroyed Greenward Path that still leads out. And that's kind of what they're trying to, because I think we say in the Brackwater wetlands section is that, after the tsunami came through, it kind of destroyed, damaged all the roads, and like rangers are coming in to not only find out like who has been injured and get people out, but also to like figure out and rebuild the roads.
I think it's the Courier Brigade, is the group of people, because they use the roads to get back and forth. But
the Rangers now, I'm like, it's kind of all hands on deck. They would have known which the roads were and all these little trails and paths, but that's kind of all been wiped out.
It could be that the Courier Brigade is attempting to do it because the Rangers aren't around anymore. Especially if they went to deal with the corruption, or at least encountered the corruption first, and a lot of them fell.
Or are they
sickness.
disbanded because of that? Right,
it's possible.
There's another former. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say there could have been like let's say these Rangers. It was maybe 100 of them or 200, and now there's only 12.
Yeah,
like they all got wiped out.
Yep.
Okay. So,
yeah, there's another former member of this Greenward Path, and this is. Okay, let's see here. This is Master Boulder of Toraf and Boulder's School of Guts and Grit. So this is one of the sword schools. It says, in fact, as much as training he received from previous masters of the school, he credits his considerable skill at fighting to years spent as a ranger of the Greenward Path, battling the monsters that stalk the wetlands. So this also tells us a little bit more about what these rangers would do.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, again, because we talk about the eastern side of the island is the more dangerous side. So this group being headquartered out here, living off the land, and then dealing with these threats or helping travelers is really cool. So that's another thing that we know about them. We also know, this is one of my there's also the Vaulter's Axe. So the Vaulter's Axe was designed by the Rangers of the Greenward Path for exploring the Brackwater wetlands. Its tall haft allows wielders of the axe to easily check water depths and vault over obstacles. To this day, it's a useful tool for anyone exploring the eastern side of the island.
That would be an interesting symbol for that order of Rangers. Like you have it on your pin, the Vaulter's
Axe. Long axe, yeah.
So clearly what we're saying is the Rangers of the Greenward Path are equipped for dealing with the wetlands. That is where they spend most of their time.
Yeah.
And cool. So I really love the idea that these Rangers exist to guide people back onto the Greenward Path, which is, something that leads people to the Gale Fields out of the wetlands. And they just so happened to be the first people to deal with the corruption as well, which makes sense if they live in the wetlands and are dealing with this type of stuff.
I like the idea too that they were once plentiful and now they are few. That this thing that devastated the Brackwater wetlands also devastated their order, and that maybe their sort of headquarters or their sacred site or whatever these rangers do. If these rangers are kind of tend towards being more druidic than they do between being warriors. There was either a sort of a proving ground where they trained new rangers, or there was sort of a druidic sacred circle that could have been just completely wiped out. And they're trying to, first of all, find, maybe they're still even hunting for members of their order, and then to rebuild their central point. They're either their headquarters or their school or their,
I kind of feel like this is not a group of people that has a headquarters or a school. I think they're probably living off the land and maybe not even as a huge unit. Let's say there's 20 members. It could be that 2 or 3 of them explore together, or they might, maybe they explore alone, and then it's like, I need assistance to make it through this, and they might call out and get people to come, like, hey, I've left a trail or used, find the path potion to get my space. Come and find me, and I need help or something like that. But
we'll define
cool.
like abandoned dwellings up in trees and stuff where they would camp for the night,
like
and
caves,
stuff. Caves. Like they might have this network of these kind of dwelling areas,
these quote unquote safe houses that they built and leave for each other.
That makes me think then that maybe there weren't a lot of them, that all throughout sort of the history of Obojima, maybe there's only been a handful of these. If they're just kind of like, they're not big enough to create like, a central place where they hang out or a gathering, but it's more just like their bands, and, how would they know of each other, and why would they have created this sort of special name? Like we're Rangers of the Greenward Path. Like, why did they do that? Like, why did they sort of instantiate themselves as this group? Instead, they're just like a bunch of random people just living off the land and being rangers.
I think it comes down to the culture of Obojima. Like on the western side of the island, culture is about invitation and bringing people in and offering assistance and helping and being
like communal
and kind and hospitable and understanding. And on the other side of the island, the way that manifests is like, there are people that are like, if we're not doing this, people are going to get lost and hurt here. I have the skill set, so I'm going to do, and I'm going to help. And maybe it's like volunteer firefighters, where it's like, I can only do it for a couple of years. Like I spent a couple years helping, and then I had to leave.
So what if?
So you get a lot of ex-members. It's not like they were kicked out. They're just like, I spent a couple summers helping, and then I left. I got the experience, and it was great, and I met a good group of friends, but I need to return to my home or something like that.
So that makes me think that the Rangers of the Greenward Path is not a name that they've given themselves. It's a name that the Courier Brigade has given them, or people who have traveled there and they encounter these people who are very helpful and knowledgeable, and they've just kind of called them that.
Yeah.
Right, they're just rangers.
Well, if the Greenward Path exists prior, then it's just like, oh yeah, like if you get lost, the Rangers will lead you back to the Greenward Path.
And then just over time, they've just kind of mushed together, and now it's the Rangers of the Greenward Path.
Yeah.
I like that. That's really cool.
I think that's
very
very
kind of adopted that. I think it's great.
Is there one more location that we talk about them?
I love how the seeds, like you've seeded this whole thing throughout the book. It's great. I think this is an Ari. Ari has done this.
It started with the entry in the Gray Steps.
Yeah.
So we have cool. Here under the Vespoma, under the monsters.
Yeah.
It says, since its introduction to the environment, factions such as the Toraf and Boulders Sword School and the Rangers of the Greenward Path have been adamant about warning travelers to avoid the creature at all costs. So again, this reinforces the idea that they are very familiar with the threats that are found in the Blackwater wetlands.
I think as an organization or a group of people, it'd be interesting to see like the negative effects. This is just one more thing that the corruption is adding unintentionally to the Blackwater wetlands. Not only is the dangers of the corruption, like getting sick or dealing with one of the monsters that is, manifesting from the corruption, that is something you have to deal with when you're going to the Blackwater wetlands. But now the type of people that would be there to help protect you have all fallen ill or have left or are changing themselves. And so it used to be that there was all of these things. Now that there's no longer paths around because of the tsunami taking things out, the Blackwater wetlands, which was already considered dangerous, is now at this height of being a place that you don't want to travel through. Yeah. Especially not without knowledge.
Yeah, even for like a courier brigade. Like,
that's really cool.
Courier brigade up to before the tsunami, they would go to the Blackwater wetlands, but with the help of these Greenward Path Rangers, they were they up their odds of surviving, like, attacked by monsters or getting lost. But now that it's been wiped out, the Rangers are kind of probably at this point scattered and are lesser in number.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even Courier Brigade might be like, we don't even know how to get through this place.
It might be that the amount of help that they offered was kind of unknown. And the Courier Brigade might not even know how dangerous the place really was. And now, since the corruption with the dispersal of these Rangers, now as overgrown as things are, they're starting to realize like just how important these Rangers might have been.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the help that was unseen.
Yeah,
it's like, why is this so much worse right now?
I used to take this major path, and it was almost always guaranteed to be safe.
Yeah,
but now there's monsters on there.
Yeah,
monsters that the Rangers used to keep away from the major paths.
Yeah, or the Rangers knew sort of like their habits and were like, the monsters won't walk during this time.
Or maybe they're setting traps or like, loud noises to keep them away.
Magical barriers or like wards or something like that. Or just like natural deterrents. Like you could put some kind of like, if you squeeze this fruit, it gives off an odor that repels the Vespoma. It's like there could be fun things like that. And there's also the corruption, which is so recent that people don't really like, I don't even think we know like exactly what are the ramifications of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like we know it could possibly be spreading. It could possibly be going deeper underground. There's strange effects that it has on creatures. There's even, it just kind of forms in itself and kind of mimics life. And this is just this current evolution of it. This might be the early stages of a further evolution, and you get like some Akira monster at the end. Like, you don't know.
Yeah.
So
the other question that I have, are all Rangers of the Greenward Path Rangers?
Right, in the subclass or in the class sense.
I don't think they are.
I
think maybe a handful of them are. And you'll even get this interesting combination where like a Fumoshiki who already has a title and is part of an organization, might be attributed to also being a member of the Greenward Path simply because their duty or their desires to fix things are sending them through this area. And so it's like, I'm a Fumoshiki, but for a time I was a member of the Greenward Path as well, or vice versa.
Yep.
And I think that's really interesting. I also could see groups such as like postal knights being like coming through this area, and you could see a postal knight being like, although the postal service is important, I actually think I can help the Courier Brigade more if I abandon, like if I go back to Yataman and I go, I'm going to abandon my post, I'm going to retire, and I'm going to go join this other organization that in return will help the Courier Brigade.
I mean, that tells me something about the Courier Brigade also of a role within that organization. I know this is a tangent, but the idea of there being like, there are the couriers themselves, the one who carries packages and postal knights and things like that. And there might be folks who maintain those roads. Like that's their job, is to make sure that it is traversable.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But
it could also be that, what if the Greenward Path is an elder spirit? That the actual road, because, you think in Obojima, like I'm trying to think of like, so there are these people that are in the Brackwater wetlands, and they've been there for probably hundreds of years, let's say. And over time, they've been leading people all through the Brackwater wetlands, but they kind of always guide you back to this one place, this Greenward Path. And that has given them their name. But like people in Obojima that form around things generally are forming around, it's like, because it's so spirit rich, and that's kind of part of the culture. Maybe this I'm thinking of the illustration of that one where the road is like lifting off. It's like, maybe there's something about this Greenward Path that's special. It maybe doesn't necessarily have to be an elder spirit, but it could have some magical quality to it, or it has some kind of special thing, which is why this group of people kind of revere it and kind of direct people to it. And kind of, it also reinstates that it's like a lifeline, and especially now.
Well, if it was a first stage road, it could be a path that never gets overgrown due to its first stage magic. Yep. And so it kind of is just like, this is the path. Like that, like it's like a kind of like Hakamon is on the end of, I think, Pelican Way.
Yeah.
Which I think we describe as like another kind of
never gets overgrown.
It never gets overgrown. And so there is that even though the Blackwater Wetlands is known for being, this kind of like a little more overgrown, a little more messy, a little harder to traverse, there are still these spaces which are kept, maintained magically in some way. So if that were to be the case, then it would make sense for these rangers to rely on that road as I can guarantee this is going to be here. Which, if the tsunami did obstruct that or stop that in some way, that also says a lot.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
If it's submerged now or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, it's starting to like magically push trees off of it or something. Or it could be being affected by the corruption. The corruption might be kind of destroying it. And then, that creates another kind of problem. Like if the corruption can actually demagicify the
strip
road.
the first stage magics away.
Yeah, imagine taking some of that into Yadamon, and then
would not be
you
good.
could actually destroy a building or corrode a whole section of the city if you had enough of this stuff.
That's interesting.
Kind of gnarly.
Another opportunity to go back onto that kind of spirit connection that you were talking about. If we didn't want to go first age, we could say that this was a spirit that maybe left the Gale Fields, and the path that the spirit took kind of like magically formed this like patch of grass that trails through the the Blackwater Wetlands is this specific terrain type, except for this path, which was like, it's almost like the Gale Fields spilling in. That's something that's interesting too. Like could be a giant, like a snail that's covered in moss and all these things. And at one point in time, it went back to the ocean. Like it went and sunk itself into the ocean. But on its way through the Blackwater Wetlands, it made this path.
That's neat. That's fun.
There's something like it. I think there's a 1,000 different types of magic explanations we could do that are interesting.
And it might be that, there's different myths, different stories about how this thing came to be.
It'd be interesting if it's less obvious. First age magic is pretty obvious. A giant green grassy patch is pretty obvious. But if it was less obvious and maybe it's just a standard path, the rangers could maybe light lanterns on occasion that float during night. Or
that's kind of where my head is at initially. It's the reason like they exist is to show you that path, right?
Yeah.
Because if we have like if it's a freeway or a highway or something like that, or even an extension of the Gale Fields,
anybody could.
You would gravitate toward that, especially if you're going from the Gale Fields or something like that. But the idea that these rangers know the way through the Blackwater Wetlands is kind of cool. Like that's what makes them important. It's one of the reasons why, like you said earlier, why it would be even more dangerous now is that they're gone.
That's cool. I like that.
I think the path should probably be easy to stay on once you're aware of it.
I think having markers is cool. Whether it's like if they're little statues or lanterns, as you say, or there's something that says, okay, I got here, I now just have to find the next thing. Yeah. Right. And that'll tell me that that I made it. Which I think is cool. I think is this in Breath of the Wild? When you're in the forest and it's all foggy.
Oh,
you have to find the next thing. Like something like that is kind of what I'm imagining. Or
it's scary, spooky forest.
Yeah, or like even in Elden Ring, I think it's in the snowy part, where it's super foggy and it's basically a whiteout and you're going from like one waypoint to the next. And that's how you're kind of on the right path. But something like that's really cool. And it could be something, it would be fun to come up with whatever that marker is. Yeah. Especially if you are not taking that path and you stumble upon one of these things. You're like, what is this? And it could be some cool stuff there.
Is it something that it's like say I'm just Joe Obojima and I'm trucking to the Blackwater
Jonathan Obojima.
Yes, Jonathan P. Obojima, Esquire. And I'm heading toward the Blackwater Wetlands to deliver my pies, and I get to that point where I need guidance, and so I find a Greenward Path Ranger. What about a Greenward Path does the Greenward Path Ranger say, "Hey, you're looking for these markers," or is the Greenward Path Ranger like, I see things that normal people don't see? and I see this Greenward Path like it's in this sort of, either these markers are invisible or these markers are magical, and I could be trained to see these things, like through meditation or whatever, being disciplined to see those things. And because what I'm trying to get at is like, what makes a Greenward Path ranger different from just a dude who goes camping in the woods? Like, is there something magical about them that gives them a special ability to see this special path? Or can anybody, once you know the trick, anybody can do it?
I think that my initial thought was kind of them in the Aragorn space, where their ability to kind of survive and track out here borders on the supernatural, you know, like, but that's, with the, as much thought as I'd put into it is, the idea that they're not superheroes. I think in my mind, I think they know this place better than anyone.
Okay.
And they use that knowledge to protect people and keep it safe. I hadn't really thought about them as it being kind of magical, but then
like
again,
a ranger subclass where they actually have,
because conceivably, if the corrupted ranger subclass, you choose that at level 3. So before that, you're a ranger, and so if you're choosing, in fact, it's a reasonable story to say, like, I'm a corrupted ranger who started as a ranger who belonged to the Greenward Path. Like, yeah, that makes sense. In which case, you do have magical abilities to do those things, right? But that is as standard as a ranger can be, I guess. It's still a ranger with, who has magical abilities. So
yeah, I think if the Greenward Path is this major space that people use quite often, I think what the rangers are good at doing are not necessarily traversing that path. I think what the rangers are good at doing are finding people who are lost and returning them to the path. It's like this path, this line, there is this thin trail that goes through this scary location.
Stay on the trail.
And it is very easy to get off of it.
Yeah.
And the moment you are off of it, it's hard to get back on. And the rangers are there to find the people that are off and put them back on and point them in the right direction. So I don't think it's like they magically, I think the thing that's quote unquote magical about them is that they're able to be off of that path and find their way back to it on a regular basis. Now, I do like the idea, I like the idea of there being like some things that you pick up that maybe only these rangers have, but I don't know if that needs to be magical. I'm thinking back to like the Drow's hand signs that they have. It could be that they have, or I guess Thieves' Cant is also this, where these rangers might have like a really simple codex of symbols that they carve into trees or areas that might just say like I'm going to carve this into a tree and it's going to be like, there's a group of Vespoma that are living in the caves nearby.
Like people who traveled the railways and they could tell, like they would leave these little codes that said, this person's friendly or this person will call the cops or something like that. And you just kind of had all these symbols along the railroad tracks. And so when you're hopping trains, you could read these codes. Yeah, that's cool.
It could also be a situation where you're leaving mark to say like there's dangers, but you're also pointing out respites or areas or pitfalls that you've stumbled into. I enjoy that communication where like you don't want to write out a bunch of information, so they've come up with a simple code where I can put a glyph down and it's like, okay, that's all the information I know.
Like a half dozen of these symbols.
Yeah,
and that's it.
All right, I have a question for everybody. So primarily the rangers are helping kind of merchants and commerce kind of come back and forth. Like before the tsunami, there were these villages that were on the eastern coastline, like Polwater, and apparently they would trade with like other, villages on the inland on the island. What else are these rangers doing? Like other than that, is there something that they're trying to discover? Maybe there was something about the Blackwater wetlands, like a mystery about it that they were trying to uncover. Is there a spirit that they're trying to revive or appease, or is there something that they're trying to put to rest? Or are they trying to build something? Like, was there any other things that they were up to out there?
I think of there's a Instagram account that I follow of a woman who does fire watch. And so what she does for 3-month periods, I think she works 6 months out of the year. She works 3 months on, 3 months off, is she hikes like 8 hours up a mountain.
Wow.
And there's this giant house, this, place that she lives in that's on a very tall peak that looks over a national forest, and it's all glass. Everywhere around her is all glass. And she has a radio, and she has a fire pit, and she has like very bare minimum, and she has to leave once a day every 3 weeks. She leaves to get rations and comes back.
Wow.
And she has a dog with her. I think she maybe has 2. And her whole job for those 3 months is to live in that glass box and look over. And if there's lightning strikes, she records where they are. If it's raining, she's watching over. She's like, I'm not required to do this, but I sleep with my radio next to me. Wow, this is important to her, and it's very isolating, and it's probably, it's a job not for everyone, but it's important to her. And I imagine that this is almost like fire watch. Like in the Blackwater wetlands, like there needs to be these people for society to continue to function. And they are like, I can do this. I'm the type of person that can do this. Thus I'm going to, and like I said earlier, I'm not going to do it forever. Maybe I put in a solid 2 years and a newbie comes in and it's like, okay, I can leave. Like I've helped, but like this is a function that needs to happen. And there's just a group of people that want to dedicate themselves to helping. And there is no greater goal except the protection of this portion of the island. It could be that there's people on the eastern island that grew up, that were woodcutters or farmers or something like that. They're like, hey, this village needs to exist over here. And like, there's people that rely on these packages that come through. And I'm aware enough and can survive. I can be a helpful tool to make sure these packages are coming through, or they're able to travel to different islands or not other different islands, but different, locations and things like that. And so people will naturally rise up in the same way that, like, I guess firefighting does pay, but also you don't become a firefighter unless you want to help your community.
But I think that I could imagine a situation where, at least in the Blackwater wetlands, people would know who these rangers are, like as a thing. Probably outside of it, less so, right? But I think if you're in the Blackwater wetlands or in a village there, so a ranger or two can go to one of these villages and have a place to clean up and, grab a meal, probably grab some provisions, and then they're off back into the bush.
They might like technically live there.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm here, I'm getting rations and I'm going back out.
Yeah. And so I could imagine that they're kind of integrated into the society that is developed in the Blackwater wetlands. And we know, like, it's a hardier folk that live on this side of the island anyway. And so I could see the rangers as an extension of that. But then again, there might be some rangers that like the isolation, and they might not go back for, a year or more at a time. Yeah. And so I could see just the whole gamut.
Makes me think of like, would some people be like, or either the rangers would take a certain amount of, like, we didn't see this coming, like the corruption, like it came from the east and they didn't spot it. Or maybe there was a soothsayer that said, at a certain time there's going to be this disaster, and the rangers were kind of, either they were mobilized because of that, or it was part of their sort of parcel to watch for, and they had no idea that this disaster was going to happen, but they knew that something terrible was going to come from the east. And so it was like, we're on red alert, there could be something about their story that's around that, which would be interesting.
It's interesting to think of the rangers being like, maybe preparing for the tsunami, the storm's coming, or the water's shaking, and they're all getting together to like combat what they think the danger is, just to be overwhelmed by something completely unexpected.
It's like way beyond. They're just like,
and it's like, we were ready for the natural disaster. We weren't ready for what was to come after the wake of the natural disaster.
Yeah, it could be kind of they go to these villages and they say, hey, we think there's going to be like a monster that's going to come out of the sea or something like that. There's something brewing, and maybe we're trying to clear some people away, but they're doing it sort of not in a like we got to get everybody out of here. Or maybe they tried and they could only evacuate a certain amount of villages, and they knew they couldn't get it all done. They're like, there's too many villages. There's only so much of us.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be a monster. It could literally just be the tsunami.
Yes.
Like maybe the fact that pole water exists today is the work of 3 or 4 rangers who came through and are like, hey, there's a cave 3 miles north of here. The island's shaking. It's only getting worse.
You got to get
You
going.
have to abandon and you have to, we'll come back.
Yeah. That's really that's
and honestly
stuff.
it might have just been like that was a 20-minute conversation with the leaders of the village, and then they're like, we have to leave, we're sorry, and then they're off to the next village or off to the next place,
and they're riding, and some people are like, there's people out fishing, like they're just like, well, tell them, or go out in a boat, or like don't go out in a boat, like
don't go in a boat, or they're like, here, and they like attach a whistle to a end of an arrow.
I mean, even on that visually, I would love to see if we ever, depict one of these rangers on like, a flat bottom, like almost like a river or swamp boat going through the Brackwater wetlands and stuff like that. It could be really cool.
Like those Everglades.
Yeah, exactly,
boats.
exactly.
Yeah.
I imagine you think of Princess Mononoke and Mononoke herself running through the woods and just having this general understanding of the space to a degree that none of the other people do. And you could imagine the rangers very similar. Like oftentimes they're slow and methodical when they're moving through, but you could imagine them blasting through the Brackwater wetlands, running from area to area, being able to avoid their Voltax, doing all of these things to avoid the dangers in such a level that like no one could speed run the Brackwater wetlands like they could.
And here's the thing, that they knew that there was a tsunami that was coming, but they didn't know there was this corruption.
And
that was like,
and that's why they're the first probably to get corrupted.
Well, you imagine like we got like maybe they escaped or they got hit by the tsunami and they all survived, and it's like, well, but now you're infected. And
man,
or we talk about that village that that was fully taken, destroyed. And like, could it be that like that's the deepest, like those 4 rangers who talked to Polewater, and then they're all sprinting to get to the most southern part of the island, because that's there's a big village there that needs help, and that's where they experience a lot of this.
So here's a question that circles back to the corrupted ranger. So we're saying that there's, let's say, at most 20 of these rangers, right? If you were playing in a game and you're like, I'm going to be a corrupted ranger, it's an interesting story question, because not every corrupted ranger has to be from the Greenward Path, right? Like, that's just a logical thing that you can do story-wise. But if you do that, does that mean, like I was mentioning earlier, that you kind of decide early on, like, should there be a background that says Greenward Path Ranger or something like that? So I could choose that as I'm a ranger, and then I will become corrupted.
I was thinking about that as well. I do feel like a background for this ranger, I don't think it's a subclass, but I think a background for this is perfect.
Because the subclass is just choose the ranger subclass that you want, from the,
or honestly, like,
or anything.
You could take the background for the Rangers of the Greenward Path and be a paladin.
Right.
Oh yeah.
You could imagine a river paladin in. There is a major river that comes through, and the swampland. There's a whole other you could
delta.
imagine the ranger or not the ranger, but the paladin of the river. What do they look like if their biome is the Brackwater wetlands? And them being a part of this takes a whole other interesting space. But
because that's Yon, the river that goes through the Brackwater, or to the north of it, right?
I believe.
Yeah, because I think Yon is. I always think of it as like,
I think
go yonder.
Yeah, I think it's Moo and Go are the other two that we don't mention.
They're the western ones.
Yon splits off into 1,000 little rivers, and
that says something about
creeks,
that spirit, because that's I forget which is that
I believe that's the boar.
The boar. Yeah.
The boar spirit.
So all the the piglets go. 14 of them.
Perfect.
Piglets.
Well, I think this is the perfect place to wrap up. I was not expecting the I guess I didn't know where we were going to take this, but I love this story that's enveloped.
Ari, thank you for seeding these little tidbits through it. This is a great.
This is juicy.
Yeah, it was a little treasure hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Follow the breadcrumbs.
Follow the breadcrumbs. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast episode. You can listen to us on Spotify, on Amazon Music, on YouTube, on
all the things,
Apple Music, other things like that. You can follow us on Discord or Reddit, or catch other cool content on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, things like that.
We got a whole year
of content.
So it's
good.
All good.
And yeah, you can buy Obojima. You can buy Obojima and other cool things like that on obojima.com or D&D Beyond or alchemy.rpg. All sorts of things. Cool. Thank you again for joining us, and we will catch you next time. Oh, leave a comment. What's the comment? Leave a comment. What's the question? Ooh, what
is your
what's your cool ranger?
If you were going to make a cool Greenward Path ranger, what would they be up to?
What would they be doing? What's their backstory? Where were they when the tsunami hit?
Ooh, that's a good one. And also where they live. Yeah. They live in a treehouse, in a cave.
They have a cool scooter.
They do, yeah.
Thank you so much. We will catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.